Hello, I'm Sasha. Today I'm going to be doing two looks with Huda Beauty's new Pastel Obsessions palette in Lilac. I will also be doing separate videos with the Rose Obsessions palette and the Mint Obsessions palette, which I will link in the description below. Here are the swatches for the Lilac palette. There are 9 different shades, including 5 mattes, 3 shimmers, and 1 swirl. The colors primarily focus on lilac or purple tones, but there's also some peach for contrast. To get started, I'm going to use a nice fluffy brush in this neutral peach shade. I'm just going to apply it as a transition shade in the crease and on the outer half of the eyelid as well. This is a really pretty shade. It seems to have nice pigment to it. It looks kind of like a neutral shade on the pan, but on my skin it comes out a lot more pink. Now I'm going to use a little bit of this lilac shade here on the outer corner of the eyelid. Just want to create a bit of a base color here. I'm going to make sure to blend that into the crease as well. I'm going to dip into this darker lilac shade. Just going to work this in a diagonal direction on the outer corner of the eye and up into the crease. This is a really pretty shade. It's got quite a bit of brightness to it. Same thing on the other side. Just making sure to work it in a diagonal direction and then up into the crease. Now I'm going to use some of this lighter peach shade on a small kind of smudge brush. I'm going to work that into the inner corner a little bit. I just want to brighten this area using this nice peach shade. I really like how they included some peach shades in this palette as well because they make a really nice contrast to the lilac shades. Just going to blend that out with my nice fluffy brush. Now I'm going to take a small smudge brush into this kind of neutral pink shade. I'm just going to work this under the lash line and take this from the outer corner to about 2/3 over. Same thing on the other side. Not going all the way to the inner corner, just about halfway or 2/3. I'm going to flip over that same brush and use it in this lighter peach shade. Just use that to define the inner corner. I'm going to take the same brush into the lighter lilac shade. I'm just going to work this in on the outer corner of the lower lash line. Just kind of want it to meet the color we have on the top of the eyelid so everything blends together in a really soft, natural way. Now I'm going to use some of this Pacifica Cherry Matte Setting Spray. I'm going to spray a little bit on my hand, dip my finger in the setting spray, dip that finger into this sort of rose gold shimmer shade, and then I'm going to pat that color on the center of the eyelid. Same thing on the other side. This actually seems to come out a little bit more bold without the setting spray, so you could use it either way. The setting spray probably will still help it stick a little bit better, so it's kind of up to you how you want to apply it. Just trying to kind of softly work this into the peach shade there to make sure everything blends together nicely. Of all the different shades in this palette, I think this rose gold one is my favorite. When I was swatching the other shades, I noticed that they had less pigment to them and they're a lot more chunky. Now I'm going to use some more of that setting spray on a tiny brush. I'm going to pat this brush in the rose gold shimmer shade. Then I'm going to press in that glitter there on the lower lash line. I'm focusing on the middle here, just like we did on the eyelid. Same thing on the other side. If you're enjoying this video, please like or consider subscribing. I post new beauty videos every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Central. I'd love to see you there. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be the first to watch my new videos. Now I'm going to use some of this Bare Minerals Lashtopia Mascara in Ultimate Black. This one has a nice fluffy volumizing brush. Just going to work it on from root to tip. For my lower lashes, I'm going to use a little bit of this Honest Beauty mascara. I really like using this brush on my lower lashes because I feel like you have a lot of control with it. It's just a really nice shape for a really precise definition. Now I'm going to use some of this Gen Nude Powder Blush in the shade Pretty in Pink. This one is just a really nice soft pink shade. You can kind of build it up to have more pigment if you want. Since our eyes are more bold, I felt like I wanted to go with a bit of a softer color on the cheeks today. Same thing on the other side. For highlighter today, I'm going to be using the Wander Beauty Wondrous Glow in After Hours. This one is a really beautiful kind of golden champagne shimmer. I like it because it's pretty subtle. It's not like a blinding highlight, but you can kind of build it up to the level you want. Now for the other side, also going to use a little bit on the brow bone, down the tip of the nose, Cupid's bow, and top of the chin. I'm also going to use a little bit on this tiny brush as an inner corner highlight. Just want to add a little bit more dimension to this look. Sometimes I like to use highlighter, especially if there isn't a shade that's quite light enough in the palette. Now I'm going to use this Fenty Beauty Sunstalker Bronzer in the shade Into Sun. I like to just take this in the hollows of the cheeks, along the hairline, sides of the nose, and down the jaw and neck. I really like this bronzer in particular because it's a nice light shade. Sometimes I have a hard time finding one that isn't too dark. Now I'm going to use some of this Bite Beauty Power Move Creamy Matte Lip Crayon in the shade Sugarcane. This one is a really beautiful matte pink shade. I also like this crayon formula because it's really easy to draw on. I feel like you can be a little bit more precise with it. Now I'm going to use a little of this NYX Butter Gloss in the shade Creme Brulee. Just want a little bit of shine here, so I'm going to focus this mostly on the middle. I like this shade because it's really soft and subtle and it doesn't affect the color you have beneath it very much. Alright, so that's it for the first look. I'm going to go ahead and wash this off and meet you back here for look number 2. If you'd like to skip ahead to the palette comparisons, I'll have a link in the description below. Alright, now I'm back and ready for look number 2. To get started, I'm going to use some of this light lilac shade here. Just going to put it in the crease kind of as a transition shade. Same thing on the other side. Even though this is kind of a light pastel shade, I really like how you can already see the pigment coming through. I'm going to go ahead and work this on the eyelid as well, just to give us a nice base there. Now I'm going to take a fluffy blending brush into this deeper lilac shade here. I'm going to work this all over the eyelid, and the same thing on the other side as well. I'm going to blend everything out, make sure the edges are nice and soft. Now I'm going to take this deeper lilac shade here and work it in sort of a cat eye shape. Just going to work it on the outer corner here and a bit onto my brow bone. Same thing on the other side. It's going to work in a diagonal direction. Now I'm just going to use a bit more of this lilac shade here and work it on the outer corner of the eye. Now I'm going to take some of this beautiful shimmery lilac shade and just work it on my finger and then press it in on the outer half of the eyelid. I think it works a little bit better if we kind of focus on using a stamping motion as opposed to like trying to blend it out softly. Now I'm going to try to do the same thing on the other eye. Again, I really kind of have to work my finger into it to get a good amount. It's kind of an interesting creamy formula. I just find it a little bit hard to work with. So if you have any tips, let me know. Now I'm going to try to use some of this lighter lilac shade as an inner corner highlight. Just going to swirl my finger around in it and stamp it in the inner corner area. I want to make sure to really work it into the other shade we have in the middle here. Now I want to do a similar look on the lower lash line. So I'm going to take some of this lilac shade. I'm going to work it on the lower lash line about halfway or 2/3 across. Same thing on the other side. Now I'm going to use a little of this pastel lilac shade in the inner corner. Now I'm going to use some Pacifica Cherry Matte Setting Spray. I'm going to spray the brush, dip it into this light lilac shimmer shade, and then work that into the inner corner as our highlight. This is a really beautiful shade. I want to say it almost has a bit of like iridescence to it. Definitely think the setting spray helps this come out a lot more bold. Now I'm going to spray that brush again. Work that into this medium lilac shade here and press some of that glitter in on the lower lash line as well. This shade is really cool too. I think it has some sort of blue glitter in it. The formula of this one seems to be a lot more creamy, so it's a little bit harder to pick up with a brush. I think it might be designed to be used with the finger. Unfortunately, this is such a small area under my lower lash line that I really am going to try to use this brush. Otherwise I think I'll just get too much. Now I'm going to use the Too Faced Better Than Sex eyeliner. This one is in the shade Deepest Black. So I want to create kind of a dramatic wing on the outer corner here. Same thing on the other side. For mascara, I'm going to use the Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara. This one is nice because it gives a lot of volume and I feel like it's a very glamorous mascara. Now I'm just going to touch up and add a little more blush. Once more, this is the Gen Nude Powder Blush in the shade Pretty in Pink. Now I'm going to use this NYX Butter Gloss in the shade Creme Brulee. This is such a bold eye look that I just wanted to do something really subtle on the lips. I especially like to use lip gloss with glitter shades because I feel like it also has a bit of shine, but it doesn't distract too much. Alright, so that's it for look number 2. Just as a quick summary, I did really enjoy using this palette. I felt like the matte shades were really highly pigmented and easy to use. They actually reminded me a lot of ColourPop in terms of how pigmented they were. They also seemed to blend well together, which was really nice. When it comes to the more glittery shades, I think I prefer this rose gold one over all the others. I felt like this was more of a shimmer that was easier to work with, whereas the others were definitely a little bit more of a struggle for me. They definitely didn't seem to have as much pigmentation as some other glitter shades I worked with. This one here also seems to be especially creamy, so I think that made it more suitable to applying it with your hand as opposed to a brush. I really do love the way this marble swirl looks in the pan. I feel like it looks very beautiful, but when you actually apply it on the eye, you don't really get a sense that it was a marble shade. There definitely is a bit of dimensionality to this shimmer, but I definitely didn't see sort of the peach tones in here that I was expecting. At $29, I feel like it's a relatively good value for 9 shades. These mattes are really highly pigmented and blend well, but I don't know if all the glitter shades are something that I would use on a regular basis. Just to quickly compare it to some other palettes, this one is ColourPop's Lilac You A Lot. You'll notice that the main difference is that the ColourPop palette is entirely purple based, whereas the Huda Pastel Obsessions has some more of those peach tones. Between the two of them, I feel like this Huda palette might be a little bit more suitable for everyday looks because it contains some neutral shades. However, this ColourPop palette is less than half the price at only $12, and if you already have a neutral palette you like, you could supplement it with something like this and create a lot of the same looks. Another close match is this ColourPop You're a Cutie palette. This one is currently sold out, but it was an Ulta exclusive earlier this year. I actually think this one might be closer in terms of the looks you can create than the Lilac You Lot palette. You'll notice that there are some nice neutral tones in it, much like the Huda palette, and it also tends to skew a little bit more towards those pinks and cooler tones. This one retailed around $18, so it was about 2/3 of the price of the Huda palette. However, considering that it is currently sold out, the Lilac You Lot palette might be a better choice. So that's it for the Lilac palette. Now here's a quick summary about the Pastel Obsessions in general. So here you can see all the Pastel Obsessions palettes. You'll notice that all of them have a range of tones, including some neutral shades. Of all the shades in these palettes, the mattes were my favorite. I felt like they were really highly pigmented, they blended well, and they were really easy to use. As far as the glitters and shimmers went, a lot of them are cream formulas, which isn't my personal preference. I found that they were hard to work with, and generally you had to apply them with your finger. It was hard to pick up a lot of product at once, and I felt like I really had to stamp them onto my eye in order to make them show up. In the pan, the swirl shades looked really pretty. I liked how they had kind of a duochrome glitter to them. However, I didn't feel like that was reflected dramatically when I put them on my eye. At $29 a piece, I feel like they were a relatively good value if you're the kind of person who likes your glitters to be a little bit more on the chunky side and you think you'll use those shades. My favorite one is probably the mint one because I feel like it just has more unusual shades that are hard to find elsewhere. However, I also really enjoyed the pop of yellow in this rose palette because I also haven't seen that in a lot of the pink palettes that have come out recently. Overall, I think there's a wide range of looks you can create with these palettes, and especially if you like glittery shades, these could be a good value. If you are interested in one or more of these palettes, I would encourage you to consider this one comparison. This is the Milani Gilded Pastel palette, and it retails for around $20. This is a highly pigmented palette that has 15 different shades. One thing that I love about it is that it comes with pastels in a range of colors. If you're considering buying this Huda palette for something like the teal shade or a minty green shade, you can probably find it for less in this Gilded Pastel palette. It will also allow you to create some similar looks to this rose palette, for example, because it has a yellow tone here, as well as that rosy tone up top. You'll also see some similarities to this Lilac palette with those pastel purple shades and the peachy tan as well. It would cost about $87 to buy these 3 Huda Beauty pastel palettes, while you could do many similar looks with a single palette for only $20. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear in the comments if you like purple and lilac palettes or if you prefer other colors instead. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.